right, what's going on, guys? So today we are going to do the lower body portion of the video that I did the other week about upper body exercises for strength and power. Today we're gonna go over the lower body. Let's do it. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over 3 basic compound movements that I like to do for strength and power, and then we're gonna give you 2 extra ones if you stay for the entirety of the video. The first one is going to be the bilateral back squat or front squat. Any type of squat in general is gonna get you strong. When you're talking about both legs, producing force down into the ground, being able to be elusive or strong is going to dictate how well you can put force into the ground. So what we wanna do is we wanna use a squat pattern to do so. That's gonna recruit major muscles. That's gonna recruit every muscle of the lower body. Also, if you do it right, you're gonna recruit every muscle of your body, especially in the posterior chain. All right, so there's several variations of the back squat that you could do, right? You can go mid bar, you can go high bar, you can go low bar. To maximize strength, you wanna put yourself in the best mechanical advantage. So doing something of a mid to low bar will allow you to actually lift more weight. But if you wanna work on your quads, if you wanna work on maintaining a solid position for athletics, then you wanna go a little bit more high bar so that you can hit that anterior translation of the femur where your knees are going slightly over the toes in a sense, if you have the mobility to do so. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the high bar, the mid bar, and I'll actually go into the low bar if my shoulders will allow it today. So high bar, wanna get it right on the traps. It's not sitting on your neck like this, right? Right on the traps, make sure that you get a good hand position. And as I come up, squeezing my lats, step back, find a position, all right? Now from there, just gonna take a big brace in, lock my lats down, pull the bar down into my back, squeeze my glutes, and externally rotate my femurs. As I come down, I go down, and then drive up. Okay, again. That's the high bar. Now we're gonna go slightly lower, right around the traps or right underneath the upper trap, and you're gonna sit it in a shelf. So it's gonna sit right below the traps and right on the rear delts, okay? I'll notice my torso angle changing as the bar goes lower and lower on my back. Now we're gonna go low bar, which is gonna be a little bit more hip, hamstring dominant squat. Gotta get a wider stance here. Squeezing my back. So it really depends upon the intensity of the movement or the intensity of the bar. So what I mean by that, intensity isn't a feeling. It's actually a mathematical formula. It's percentages. So it's a percent of weight on the bar. The higher the percent, right, the more force you're gonna have to produce to get the weight up. Right? The more force, the less velocity. So if you're looking to maximize strength, it has to be heavy loads, 90+%. And the way you're gonna be able to lift maximal loads is going a little bit more deeper with that bar, right? So again, you're putting yourself in that mechanical advantage to lift the most amount of weight possible. Now, if you want to work on your power and you want to work on a faster rate of force, then you can go into a high bar and work on that and work on the velocity of the bar path. So you're working more explosive power, getting closer to like 1.0, 1.2 meters per second, all right? Now the percentages are going to vary based upon your ability to produce that force. But in all actuality, this is a great exercise to mix and match and give you different variations to improve your strength. All right, so the next one is a trap bar deadlift. The reason why I like the trap bar, especially for athletes, is it puts your body in a good position to produce force, right? It's not disadvantageous to your back or anything like that. If you have mobility issues, this is a great change of exercise to use based upon a deadlift, right? So if you don't have that optimal range of motion in your hips or you're a lanky guy, this does help to be able to hit a hinge movement. So you're working your hamstrings, you're working your glutes, you're working your quads, And you're also activating and stabilizing your spine with your lats. So we wanna make sure we're doing that. Now, the goal here is because of the bar sits in the midline of the body, it doubles as a squat and a hinge, depending on how you put your torso or how you put your hips. So if I go deeper into a squat position and I drive my knees forward, it's more of a squat pattern, right? Now, if I go up into this hinge position, obviously now I'm more in a deadlift position and I lock my lats in. So whatever movement you want to do, whatever exercise you want to hit, or whatever muscles you want to hit, it's going to depend upon your angle or your formation of the angle where you're pulling from. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through two variations. I'll go through the squattier version and I'll go through the hingier version, if that's even a word. We're going to make it up today. All right, so squattier version, right? I'm dropping my hips down. And the good thing about the trap bar is that if you want to go deeper with your hand position, you can flip the bar. So we got the high handles here, we'll go low handles. For a squattier pattern, I'm using more quads, right? And I'm maintaining that upward torso angle, just like I would do with a high bar back squat or a front squat. Now we'll go into more of a hinge position. So again, you're hitting a little bit different muscles there. Obviously with the hinge, you're gonna work the hamstrings, the glutes. You're also going to be able to lock down your lats a little bit more, and you may be able to do more weight. So more overall load will increase the percentages on the bar, and it'll give you more ability to produce force. Creating that force is gonna get you stronger. Now the sets and reps are gonna be based upon the percentages. The higher the percentages, right? The higher the weight, the load, the less sets you're gonna have to do, the less reps you're gonna have to do. So again, hinge and a squat trap bar deadlift. Okay, so the next one we're gonna do for power, I'm just gonna do a standard box jump. Now the reason why I like the box jump is because it doesn't put a lot of damage to the joints. So as you're jumping up onto the box, it actually absorbs that force that you're displacing as you come down. So what you wanna do is, we wanna work on this to increase the ability to produce force from the ground to the box. You can do other variations. Today we're just gonna do a counter movement and a non-counter movement jump. Now, the non-counter movement jump is going to help you with rate of force development. So how static you can be, so you're gonna stay in a static position, and then on a drop of a dime, you're gonna explode up as fast as you can, right, onto the box, okay? So we're going from a static to dynamic. The other one that we would do is a counter movement jump, where you're actually gonna use what's called the stretch shortening cycle. So I'm gonna get a big stretch in the hamstrings, I'm gonna come down. After I stretch here, I'm gonna go ahead and drive up using that kinetic energy to bounce out of the hole and drive up onto the box. So if you need faster rate of force and you need reactive strength, these two will help you. A non-counter movement jump, you're gonna drop down in position, in the hinge position, hold for 3 seconds, and then explode up, getting in triple extension. Now we're gonna do the counter movement jump. We're gonna go ahead, get that stretch reflex, and bounce out of the hole. Okay, so the great thing about the counter movement and the non-counter movement jump is that you can actually see what your athlete lacks, whether they lack the reactive component or they lack the ability to produce force fast from a static position or static to dynamic. Right now, you can use different modalities of training methods to enhance the weak points. For the most part, if a guy is more stronger than they are fast, then they'll actually have more ability to create force from a static position. So that non-counter movement jump may be actually higher than their counter movement jump. And a guy who's springy, a lot of boxers are like this, have a higher counter movement jump because they have that reflexive reactive strength, right, built in. We need to see what they need to work on If it's you and you are actually doing this, just know what you're actually bad at and work on those bad points so that you can bring it all up and close the gap. So check it out. Now we're gonna go on to 2 of these special exercises. Now, the one exercise we're gonna do is called a unilateral or a split stance squat. So you're gonna do a split squat. Now there's several variations of the split squat. There's the rear foot elevated split squat, the front foot elevated split squat. You got the Kozak squat for lateral force, but for general purposes, we're gonna go ahead and work on just the standard split squat. Now, the reason why I like the split squat is because you do sports on one leg. You're never, in a bilateral stance unless you're doing something like a strength sport. Primarily, a lot of the sports are played on single legs, right? You're moving back and forth, you're running, you're cutting, things of that nature. And especially for combat sports, we're pushing in and out of the pocket, especially when it comes down to like takedowns and everything else. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on that single leg movement. We're gonna do a standard split squat. Now, great thing about this, if you don't want to load the spine, if you just did a back squat, or you've been squatting for 4 to 6 weeks in a block, now you want to get out of that stress, you want to alleviate the strain on your spine or the axial loading on the spine, you can do something with dumbbells. You can do it with a kettlebell. So when you work unilateral movements, you're able to recruit motor units and muscle fibers all in that one leg. There's a thing called bilateral deficit where when you do a bilateral back squat, usually you tend to have less force production through both legs because everything's kind of working simultaneously. Now, when you go into a single leg squat, you're actually putting all of the focus on that leg that's producing the force to stand up. All right, so that's what we're gonna be working on. Now, primarily, you can do at least 10% less of your bilateral back squat 1RM. So just take that into account. Cal Dietz talks a lot about it in triphasic training, so make sure you guys check that out. For the most part, we wanna work on getting stronger. So we gotta work on those lower rep ranges, higher intensities. So you're looking 80, 90, even to 100%, which is roughly around 90% of your bilateral back squat. All right, here we go. So I'm gonna take a split stance position. Now, with the split stance, you obviously want to be in balance. So make sure that you screw your feet in and your adductors are staying on, right? Now, if your adductors aren't on, you're going to wobble around. If your big toe isn't crushing the ground, you're not going to be able to, obviously stay in a good position here. Another thing, if you lack the stability, you can do a safety bar split squat while holding handles, and that way you can overload the exercise. But for now, we're just going to go with dumbbells, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab both sides, and as I come down, I'm gonna have my knee go forward slightly and then drive up. As I drive up, I'm driving down and back into the floor. Again, I really like this exercise. If you want to change it up a bit from the bilateral stance work, make it more sport specific, you can try the split stance squat. All right, so the last exercise that we're going to do is going to utilize the Prowler. Now, the Prowler is one of the pieces of equipment that I would not go without. You can condition with the Prowler, you can do power work with the Prowler, and you can also do strength work with the Prowler. You can do strength endurance work with the Prowler. There's a bunch of shit you can do with the Prowler. All right, so make sure you check it out. Cop it. It's at Elite FTS or Rogue, or they all have it. So for the exercise to build strength, obviously have to produce more force into the ground, but with higher intensity. So the load has to be high. Now, when you do this, we're gonna go with that forward lean. So you're actually getting into an acceleration phase of a gait pattern, and I'm driving into the ground with the balls of my feet. It is more sport specific through the joint angles, the motion, and the force into the ground. So as my torso is at a 45-degree angle, here, I'm driving into the ground with the balls of my feet, and I'm extending at the hip, right? Really good for football, really good for combat sports, really any sport that requires strength going through the ground, whether it be a combat or contact sport, definitely a good tool to have. What you want to do from a protocol perspective is I like to start with one plate on each side. Increase the plates each set. You want to go around maybe 10 to 15 yards, or you can go in time. If it's heavier, you're going to go less time, obviously. So you want to go about 6 to maybe 10 seconds tops for more of that maximal strength work. For strength endurance, then you're going to be working somewhere around 30 seconds at a time. If you want explosive power, then it is going to be same thing, 6 to 10 seconds. seconds, as fast and explosive as possible, but the loads is gonna be lighter because you wanna move it faster. There are several ways you can do this. You can also work contrast training with this. I can go a heavy load and then I can go into a fast sprint, right? We've done that too as well, right? So here's how it looks. We wanna drive into the ground using that 45-degree angle. Here we go. All right, guys, so there you have it. 5 exercises that you can use to increase your strength, and you can also increase your power depending on how you use it. Remember, when it comes down to power and strength, it really depends on the load, the percentages, and the speed on that particular movement. So make sure that you're doing that adequately to get the stimulus that you want. All right, there it is. Legs aren't too bad, I guess. So legs coming back after the knee surgery. Still got a little bit of atrophy on this side. There it goes. I'm gonna keep working these movements so that I can get back to where I was back before the ACL tear. All right, so if you wanna find out more details on how to train, maybe you can't come to Boca, you can train anywhere around the world on my online gym. Now it's available. So link is down below to sign up now. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share the video to anyone that you know that needs this type of work. All right, see you again next time. Peace.